Welcome to episode 55, I-1 Recap and Quick Reference, where we bring the essential elements of the I-1 certification together into one concise, practical review. This episode is meant for anyone maintaining, preparing, or verifying I-1 compliance and wants a quick yet meaningful refresher. The I-1 framework emphasizes foundational security and operational maturity, and understanding its moving parts helps teams stay efficient and audit-ready. Whether you are a new participant learning the basics or a seasoned professional double-checking alignment, this quick reference simplifies the complex. It connects the structure, scope, and safeguards into a single mental model. By the end, you should be able to describe what I-1 covers, how to maintain it, and what readiness signals auditors look for when evaluating your program's strength and sustainability. Scope boundaries and system summaries define what is covered under the certification and what is not. Clarity here prevents confusion during both implementation and assessment. The scope outlines which business units, systems, and data flows fall within the I-1 framework's reach. This boundary should be drawn around controlled, manageable environments where consistent policy enforcement is possible. For instance, a company might include its production systems and cloud workloads handling customer data while excluding experimental or development networks. A clear system summary lists technologies, platforms, and interfaces included in the assessment. By documenting this upfront, organizations set firm expectations for evidence collection, reducing surprises and scope creep later in the audit cycle. Implemented means proven. Within I-1, an implemented control is one that exists, functions, and can be evidenced. It is not enough to have a policy written. Auditors must see operational proof that the safeguard works in daily practice. Implementation evidence can include screenshots, configurations, logs, or reports demonstrating consistent behavior over time. The expectation is stability, not theory. For example, if a backup control is claimed as implemented, the organization should show recurring job logs and test restores rather than a one-time setup. Understanding this meaning helps teams avoid empty declarations and instead prepare tangible, review-ready evidence that aligns with the trust but verify nature of the framework. Access control remains a pillar of I-1's assurance structure. Every user, administrator, and service account must have access appropriate to their role, no more and no less. The key requirements include unique credentials, timely provisioning and deprovisioning, and clear separation between normal and privileged accounts. This ensures traceability in case of incidents and accountability for every change made to systems. For instance, when a contractor departs, their access must be promptly removed to prevent lingering exposure. Access governance is one of the first areas auditors review because it directly reflects how well an organization controls entry to sensitive environments. Sound access control translates into measurable risk reduction and operational discipline. Device baselines and endpoint detection and response coverage, often abbreviated as EDR, ensure that every workstation and server meets a minimum protection standard. A baseline defines the expected configuration, such as approved software, required updates, and enabled security settings. EDR adds continuous monitoring to detect threats that slip past preventative measures. Together, they form the foundation for endpoint assurance. For instance, an endpoint without encryption or EDR coverage would fall outside compliance until remediated. Maintaining visibility across all devices, including remote or cloud-managed assets, allows teams to react quickly to anomalies and confirm that each endpoint adheres to the same defensive baseline. Uniform protection across devices equals uniform confidence in the organization's overall readiness. Configuration management and drift control keep systems consistent with policy. Over time, small deviations, known as configuration drift, can accumulate and weaken security. The I-1 framework expects organizations to define, document, and enforce configuration baselines, then monitor for variance. Automated tools or periodic reviews can highlight differences between current and expected settings. For example, if a firewall rule is added outside approved change management, drift detection should flag it. Maintaining configuration integrity ensures that environments remain predictable and auditable. It also reduces the likelihood of hidden vulnerabilities introduced through ad hoc adjustments. Drift control is ultimately about stability, proving that what is deployed is known, authorized, and continuously aligned with the intended design. Patching cadences and exception rules form another cornerstone of I1. A patch cadence defines how quickly systems must apply updates once released, usually based on severity. Critical updates may require immediate attention, while lower priority ones can follow scheduled maintenance cycles. Exception rules handle cases where a patch cannot be applied promptly, such as when compatibility testing is required. These exceptions must be documented, justified, and time-bound. The goal is to minimize exposure while balancing operational impact. A strong patch program shows assessors that the organization maintains awareness of vulnerabilities and acts swiftly to contain risk. Over time, consistent patch discipline becomes a measurable indicator of operational maturity and security hygiene. Data classification and protected health information handling, often abbreviated as PHI, ensure that sensitive data is properly identified and safeguarded. Classification assigns levels based on sensitivity and regulatory requirements, guiding how information is stored, transmitted, and shared. For example, public data may need minimal controls, while confidential or regulated data demands encryption, limited access, and logging. In the I1 framework, correctly labeling data helps apply the right safeguards automatically. Teams should treat PHI and similar regulated data types as the highest category, ensuring that both policy and technology reflect the strictest handling standards. Proper classification prevents accidental exposure and underpins the integrity of all other security controls. Cryptography requirements cover data in transit, data at rest, and the management of encryption keys. The I1 framework expects strong encryption algorithms, secure key storage, and documented procedures for rotation and recovery. Data in transit, such as emails or web traffic, should use secure protocols like transport layer security to prevent interception. Data at rest, such as stored files or databases, must remain protected even if physical access is gained. Key management is often overlooked but critical. It ensures that access to encrypted data remains restricted and auditable. Together, these measures provide layered assurance that information remains confidential and untampered, satisfying one of the most fundamental expectations in modern cybersecurity. Logging, monitoring, and alert routing allow organizations to detect and respond to unusual activity before it becomes an incident. I1 emphasizes centralized log collection, synchronized time sources, and alert delivery to appropriate responders. Effective monitoring connects events across systems to identify patterns that may indicate intrusion or misconfiguration. For instance, repeated failed logins followed by a successful one might warrant investigation. Logs serve as both evidence for auditors and as operational intelligence for defenders. Routing alerts to the right team ensures speed and clarity in response. By maintaining this visibility, an organization not only meets compliance expectations but also strengthens real-time awareness and resilience against evolving threats. Routing alerts to the right team ensures speed and clarity in response. By maintaining this visibility, an organization not only meets compliance expectations but also strengthens real-time awareness and resilience against evolving threats. Incident response within I1 is concise yet meaningful. The framework expects an organization to have a documented plan outlining detection, containment, investigation, and recovery steps. Roles and communication paths should be defined in advance to avoid confusion during an event. Exercises or tabletop simulations demonstrate readiness. For example, a phishing simulation might test how quickly the team reports and isolates suspicious messages. The key expectation is not perfection, but preparation, the ability to act decisively under pressure. After an incident, lessons learned should feed back into policy and training, reinforcing the continuous improvement loop that makes the program stronger with every cycle. Packaging, narratives, and assessment submission form the final administrative stage of the I1 cycle. Once evidence is collected, it must be organized logically with clear narratives explaining how each control operates and where proof resides. This documentation allows assessors to evaluate efficiency and completeness without guesswork. The submission should follow the framework's formatting and timing requirements, ensuring smooth review. For instance, a narrative for access control might summarize provisioning, monitoring, and deprovisioning flows supported by policy and screenshots. Clear packaging demonstrates professionalism and readiness. It also sets the stage for faster assessments, fewer clarification requests, and a more confident outcome for both the organization and the assessor community. Readiness signals and next steps mark the end of this quick reference, but the beginning of continuous assurance. An organization ready for I1 recertification shows patterns of control stability, consistent evidence quality, and proactive correction of any drift. Teams stay audit-ready not by doing more paperwork, but by embedding compliance into daily operations. The next step after this recap is to maintain that rhythm, monitoring, measuring, and refining before the next formal review. When I1 becomes part of business as usual, readiness is not something to prepare for. It becomes the natural state of how the organization operates every day, with clarity, confidence, and integrity.